Yo, it's your boy Lee, and today we're just gonna be doing yet another My Hero What If. This is What If Deku had Renji powers part 2. So it all starts off with, Deku and the rest of the class going back to school. Once they are in class 1A, they would basically be told to actually get on the bus for the USJ. So then now that they're getting on the bus for the USJ, this is where they would ask about, the quirks. And, they would ask, Deku about his quirk, and Deku would pretty much be like, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious I have a fire quirk, and yeah. And they would ask him how it would work, and he would basically say, I can basically make fire. It doesn't even matter if it's mine. So, like if somebody with my quirk was a villain and they would go against somebody like Endeavor, they would have full control over their fire and their body because how his fire works. And, they're like, dang, that's kind of overpowered. And once they do get to the USJ, they would get to the USJ and they would be looking at it, and it was like, wow, so are you going to be doing some rescue training? And 13 would be explaining about how quirks can be very dangerous, and that's when a portal will open, and him in the class would see, Shigaraki and Kirigiri all come out the portal, and hundreds of bad guys come out the portal. Once Shigaraki realizes that All Might is not here, he would basically be like, oh, fuck, man. All Might was supposed to be here. And, he would just, Kirigiri would just teleport everybody else there. So, yeah. So you would just teleport everybody else there. And, in that time span, Deku would just be in the same place that he was in canon with, Froppy and Mineta. And, he would already make up a plan because, he's just that smart. So, Deku would think that Mineta can use his sticky pop-off quirk to stick, the people in the water together, and he can just burn them alive, and they can dip the fuck out of there. So that's what they do, and the plan is pretty successful. When they do come back, and other children or other kids from the class are there, all they see is the Nomu pretty much smashing was Aizawa's face into the ground, basically. And they don't like that because that's their teacher. So obviously the main character has to run up and try to do something. So he tries to punch him, and it only makes him fly back. It doesn't do serious damage. So he would get the memo that he has shock absorption. Cause Deku, before he got Renji powers, I guess, he did train, and he really did. He trained his body and his brain, cause he was studying quirks, cause he already knew that he could lose fights to people with quirks. So he was studying quirks and how they work. So he would instantly know that, it's shock absorption that the Nomu has. And so he started, actually trying to, kill the Nomu. It didn't seem human anyway. So he just went with it, So he pretty much runs at it, and the scythe would appear right from his hand. As he's dragging it across this floor, you can hear the sound. And once he does actually pick it up, he swings it straight at the Nomu. And with a blaze of fire coming straight after it, you would slice the Nomu in half. The pretty much it has no way of regeneration, because it was literally made by a god. Like when he punched him, he didn't give any firepower. He just gave regular strength. And Deku is pretty much like one of the strongest people at this point, just physical strength. So Deku is pretty much just that good. And as he is pretty much going along and bodying other villains, basically doing the Madara on all these 200 villains and just taking them out with ease, And Shigaraki would see that this Nomu was cut in half, and he would smirk. He'd say, "Hey kid, that Nomu has super regeneration," and it tries to regenerate, but it's not happening. So it just regenerates the stuff. It just regenerates half of the stuff. So it's still fully not functional. So when All Might appears, it's an easier fight, and most of the villains are already taken care of. So All Might with just one punch, the Nomu, and that whole situation would be over. Aizawa will be taken care of to the hospital. 13 would be that hurt, and she would be fine. So, and All Might would still have some time because he still took care of him in one punch. So Deku and All Might and the rest of the class, they would pretty much go on with their lives. And since how strong Deku actually is, there's a lot of teachers and students who think if we didn't have him there, we could have all died, because he's already all stronger than all of us, and he has displayed that before. So if he wasn't here, we might have died. So that's when they would put that's when they would be trying to put the students in dorms, because yeah. So that's when they try to put students in dorms right before the sports festival. So yeah. So now Deku and Yue are now in dorms, and it's good and all. So Deku, 2 weeks later after training, he would basically be ready to start the sports festival. Since he did get first in the entrance exam, he would go up to the podium and he would say, "I hope you all try your best, because I'm going to do that too, and yeah, don't hold your punches." And people would be cheering because he ain't saying anything rude, so people gonna be happy about that. Okay, so when midnight would basically say start for the race, Deku would be flying with fire wings, and he's pretty much godlike at this point, and it's just too good, man. It's too good. So obviously, he gets past anything and everything with ease with his flying. So he would get first place and get the 10 million points. You would just have Uraraka on his team because I have something to do with that. I don't know. But no one else wants to be on his team because reasons, and he can literally just fly and hold her up. So yeah. So he's pretty much just flying over in the cavalry battle. So they have no chance of getting first place at this point. Yeah, so they have no chance of getting first place. So he would still get first place on that too. So Deku would be pretty much like too easy, and people like people like what's his name? I forgot, but the person in class 1B with the copy quirk. Cause Monoma, yeah, Monoma. Yeah, he would want to steal his quirk in a cavalry battle because he could fly, and it would make it a lot easier. But he would just fly over them, so he couldn't do it. So, as he's pretty much done flying, in Monoma to catch up to him and try to touch him. Deku is not very worried about him, so when Monoma does touch him and he tries to use his quirk, nothing happens, and Deku just looks at him and just looks back to the heroes explaining the 1v1s. So that's exactly what they would be doing. They would be explaining the 1v1s. Pretty much, if anybody were to be knocked out of the ring, they lost. So it would all start off with Deku and Shinzo. Shinzo would say, "Oh, it's so lucky for you to have a quirk," and it's so lucky for you to have a quirk that's powerful and flashy. You're easily gonna become a better hero. And Deku would just say, "Yeah, thank you," and and he was about to say it wasn't a quirk before the mind control happened. So Shinzo kind of saved him on that one. So Deku would be about to walk outside of the ring, and he's pretty much looking straight forward, and he would see Renji looking right through, and like he can see him, and that's when he would just burst off into flames, going back into the air, basically doing flips in the air. And he would come down to the ground, cracking it up. And people would see him with chains around his hands and like a big scythe. And he would just basically blitz Shinzo, and he would have the scythe right at his throat. And he would say, "Leave now if you don't want to get clapped." Basically, right? And Shinzo, he would try to punch him and start some shit. So, Deku would instantly fire teleport and, literally teleport. And as soon as he tries to punch him, he would teleport. Since it is a fire thing, he kind of did get burned from it, so he would walk out the ring from that. So Deku would instantly win in the first 49 seconds. So it was one of the fastest wins of all time. So, people was like, dang, he kind of overcame, like, mind control. And only people who can see, only people who have, kaboos, only people who have, the only people who have training from Renji can see him. Like, you have to actually have training from him, because only he can see him. So it kind of was like the one for all thing, but it was with Renji instead. So Deku would basically be in the waiting room, and he would call up Renji, and he would be like, "Yeah, why are you here?" And Renji would says, "I just kind of got spawned there, Like, I know you needed help because I was kind of watching it. So I just teleported there. You can only see me though, so it didn't look weird, so, yeah." And, as he is talking, somebody would walk in the room, and it was Todoroki. Todoroki would say, like, he would straight up just say, "Are you a Death's son?" Because, he don't know anybody else with a fire quirk. And it's kind of like there is nobody else with a fire quirk in My Hero. other than Endeavor and Todoroki. So, he asked, like, is he one of the quote-unquote defective children of Endeavor? And, he's like, what? No. Because, he noticed that he bring him up and he has fire powers just like him. And, it's kind of weird. So Deku just explained that, no, I'm not his son. Unless... Wait a minute. It'll actually go well. That'd been weird. Because, Deku father do got, a fire quirk. So did Todoroki, though. So, damn. That's kind of tough. So, yeah. So, you just say, nah, not really. And, the next match would go on. It was Todoroki versus, Tape Boy. And, Tape Boy would get involved in that ice. So, he's totally done. And, because Todoroki's kind of mad because he thinks he lied to him. So, yeah. That means it's Bakugo versus Uraraka. Bakugo would be pulling up on her, or Uraraka would be pulling up on him. She would basically do the same plan, making Bakugo explode everywhere so she could use the rocks and try to hit him in the head and give him a concussion. But Bakugo would just be like, nah, bitch, and be like, boom! Explode the whole thing, and basically like, what's up now? You're gonna get bodied. And no, he basically bodies her. And now it's Todoroki and Deku, I think, right? Yeah. This will all start off with Deku going up to the stadium. So there's Todoroki. Todoroki got this mean ass look on his face, like he's finna clap some cheeks or something. And Deku would just walk up there, and he would just look at Todoroki. He was like, "You good? Like, you need some water?" And Todoroki would just say, "Shut up and let's fight." And that's when the match would start. He would start using ice all over the place. He's already riled up. And, this is the worst match for Todoroki right now. So, yeah. So, Deku's kind of still wanting him to use his power. Use fire because, he can absorb all his fire. He can instantly burn him. So, yeah. So, that's when Deku has an idea. Basically has a flashback to what he said, on the bus to the USJ. And he was like, damn, I should do that. So, what he does, he pretty much puts a little fireball inside of his hand. And he has it closed. And once Todoroki tries to put like an ice pillar right in front of him to try to stab Deku, Deku would just put fire over it. It wouldn't melt it, but it wouldn't be touching it either. So it basically put fire over it. So it's under fire manipulation. So now that ice moves on Deku's mind, basically, Deku controls anything that touches his fire. So Deku is pretty much... So now the ice is going at Todoroki, that ice pillar. And Todoroki is struggling to use his own ice, and he's wondering how he's doing this. Then he even has his own flashback to where Deku said that. So he smirks and he gives up on that ice. While still attacking him, he would make more and start trying to fight Deku again. So now they're in this hand-to-hand combat while this ice and fire is just surrounding them. And no one can truly get through. So Deku and Todoroki having this hand-to-hand combat. And Deku kicks him right in his ribs. And Todoroki would fly. And luckily he would save himself with ice. But he wouldn't. Luckily he would save himself with ice. And he would just bounce straight off the wall of ice and try to kick Deku right in his face. Once he does, Deku would fly up. And so would Todoroki, jumping up into the air, trying to use another ice attack on Deku to finish it off. Deku would be in this position looking like he's pretty much knocked out, but then like light from his sleeves red change would pretty much, come from his sleeves, basically. And, they're wrapping all around his body. Then they swirl, and one of them even cuts Todoroki. And Todoroki is like, what the fuck was that? So he's pretty much looking at one of the chains and forgets there's another one. So one of them pretty much ties Todoroki up. And now they're pretty much spinning in the air. And that's when Deku would bring out the scythe, pretty much to finish his job. With a blaze of fire straight from the Reaper Axe. And Deku would basically be like, bro, I'm finna body you. And Todoroki would put ice right on it it still cut him, but he would still touch it to put ice on it. With Deku holding it down just a little bit more, just clenching it, it would all burn the ice. And they'll be doing this weird fight in the air. Deku would kick Todoroki right in his face, leaving Deku farther down than Todoroki. Todoroki would fall right after Deku. Deku would get up from the situation, coughing up blood a little. And Todoroki would look at Deku. He would be like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And Todoroki would start to get really riled up and mad as he starts to use his fire. He does it for about 5 seconds, and he realizes he fucked up bad. Deku started using his fire manipulation, ability to basically wrap all the fire that Todoroki is using right around him. So he's in a full fire, vortex. He's like, come on, Todoroki, just quit. You can't get out of this. And Todoroki will be using this ice with no return. It's no use. Because his fire is uncontrollable. Plus Deku's renji power, which is basically one of the strongest fires of all time. He's just using it at a weaker level. Yes, Deku is not at the most advanced level of renji power, usage. He still haven't learned any god abilities or demon abilities, so he doesn't have much of anything but his fire abilities and teleportation and all about that stuff. But he can learn that soon. And Deku be like, give up. And all Todoroki would do is try to use ice to shield himself like he did in season 1. And he would basically run through the fire as it tries to catch him. He would eventually get out with burn marks all over him, and he would scream out, I hate you. And Deku would say, it's not his fire, it's yours. And that would make Todoroki wants to use his fire even more, and it opens his eyes, and he's even shocked for a second. So he's on his knee, pretty much, shocked, and kind of can't move for some reason. And at this point, he realizes that he just gives up. He has nothing at this point. Even his ice is totally ineffective to Todoroki, or to Deku. So, and he can just absorb his fire or just make it use against him. So he has nothing in his arsenal that can beat Deku. So, he would give up. And even Bakugo would get mad at this, because Bakugo does not like Deku at all, because even though they don't really know each other, he wouldn't like Deku because he's kind of like already this strong, and he thinks that he can beat Deku, and and he thinks that he can beat Todoroki, which he can. He can beat Todoroki like he does in the anime, pretty easily actually. So yeah. So, once, so the Bakugo would pretty much put his foot right on, right on one of the chairs in front of him and literally jump off to the stadium using the explosions to break his fall. And he would say, "Start the fight, I'm gonna kill you." And, he would pretty much, and Renji would just look, not Deku, but Renji would just be watching this and he's like, And Deku would be like, "Yeah, this ain't it, man." And, he would basically, flip back, and that's when the fight would start. Bakugo would start using explosions. He would start using a whole bunch of explosions, bigger ones. And all Deku was doing is absorbing the smoke as he runs by and starts hitting Bakugo with a barrage of fire attacks. And even doing a little bit of taijutsu, spinjutsu on his fucking head, kicking him in his back after he flips over him. Pretty much now they're on opposite sides. Todoroki is even watching this. He's even wondering how strong can one be? Like how can this child be this strong? What type of training did he do? How long did he take? And Deku would be continuing the fight. And this time there's something different about his scythe when he brings it out. He brings it out just to parry Bakugo's big explosion. And once he does bring it out, at the bottom of it, there seems to be some type of chain link. And as the chain will form overall in the fight, seconds later, he would see that the scythe would have this upper end to it. That's like a little axe. And Deku would see that it can morph. So his scythe is morphing. And his scythe can morph into different weapons. And as his scythe is pretty much morphing into like an axe at its end and a scythe at its upper end with a chain in the middle, he would pretty much be like, "Yeah, this is it." So he would pretty much take the weapon, and he would just throw it straight at Bakugo, and Bakugo would just look at it. He was like, "What the fuck is that?" And he would just look at it. He's like, "This ain't it, Chief. This ain't it." And as he would be looking at it, it would totally disappear, as Deku would teleport right to it. And as he's not knowing what's going on, Deku is in the air right beside him, pretty much spinning around in the air, and he's about to go for a kick right in the back. It completes and it hits. Bakugo is flying across the ring. He saved himself with an explosion. And now Bakugo's in the air doing a flip. And in the air, he would start doing a Hauser impact, and Deku would morph his Reaper axe into a fucking sword, and Deku would basically be like, "Fuck no," and all he would do is absorb the smoke from it, and he would basically block it with a shield. I'm changing it to a shield than a sword because a sword didn't really matter. So yeah, he would basically absorb the smoke while he's blocking it with a shield. He's getting even pushed to the end of the ring. And even as he's seeing this, he would see, "Damn, fuck, bro." And once he's at the little centimeter of it about to go, he's been like, "Fuck, I'm gonna lose." And all they would see is a flash of light, big yellow flash of light. And this was Renji coming in. I know it's kind of cheating, but no one would know. So, right, you would pretty much come in and basically tap him on the back, giving him, 2 times the boost of a power that he has for this limited time. So, now Deku is pushing towards Bakugo, and he's a lot faster and stronger, so Bakugo can't react. So now when he makes a fire, it pretty much bursts off into another yellow light. And now when the dust and the light clears, all they would see is Deku standing straight and tall with his arm all the way up, smiling as Bakugo's in a crater in the wall, pretty much unconscious. As no recovery girl in the infirmary, you basically bring him to the nurse's office, and and Deku would get his number 1 medal. As he's still sitting in a writing room, Todoroki would come up to him again, and Deku was like, "Look, man, I'm not." And that's when Todoroki would pretty much cut him off, and he would say, "How did you get that strong? Like, actually, can you, help me train?" And, as Todoroki, he's pretty much hating himself for saying that because he thinks he's all better than everybody else. And Deku would say, sure. And that's when Bakugo would walk by and he would hear this conversation. He would come into the room and he would be like, "You're gonna train them, you're gonna have to train me." And pretty much now that Deku and Todoroki are now on the road, Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo are now on the road to get, not Renji power. They're not all gonna have fire powers. No. There's multiple of, because, you don't know the Tomomo backstory. It's basically that, it kind of starts off with, Kazuto, Renji, Kane, and Akira. They all have their different powers, but but Deku would obviously get Renji powers, and the rest of them would be, set off to other people. So, it would be kind of crazy. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is pretty much the end. Yeah. And yeah, pretty much Deku and Todoroki and Bakugo. Days later, they would basically be right in front of Renji, and Renji would be like, "Y'all not all getting training for me because y'all can't all get Renji powers. Cause y'all not gonna get me my powers. Nah. So you basically get his friends, basically Kazuto for Todoroki, because Kazuko would have ice. That's pretty much how I'm gonna leave this off. I'll tell you the rest about it later. Bye bye.